Every new school here begins with hope. Students arrive with new books, new timetables, and promises to work better. We teachers return with new plans, new resources, and ideas about what we want to improve. During those opening days, almost everyone feels motivated. But motivation is rarely the problem at the beginning. The real question is what happens when excitement disappears? What happens when assignments accumulate, lessons become difficult, students receive disappointing results, and teachers become overwhelmed by everything demanding their attention? That is when a school here is truly shaped. My name is Benjamin Wekesa. I am a mathematics educator and an advocate for inclusive and sustainable learning. Today, I want to share 5 lessons I've learned from working with students and teachers in different learning environments. Looking back 6 years ago, I founded Benster Learning Hub. At that time, I was a student at university, just trying to find my way, trying to survive, and making life possible. The organization did not begin with perfect strategies. It began with one student. I was given an opportunity to support one learner, and I took it seriously. That experience grew into mentoring students in mathematics and physics within different regions, areas within Nairobi City. I was able to design learning resources and support young people from different education backgrounds and also different socioeconomic status. Looking back, that journey has taught me that meaningful growth usually begins with something small. Students often start the year with large goals. I want to get a 7 or an A star or an A or exceeding the requirements or exceeding the expectations depending on the nature of the curriculum they are doing. But I want to become the best student in my class. We teachers also make ambitious promises about transforming classrooms. I always go to that year telling myself, this year, I'm going to create the best classroom culture for my students. I'm going to make a chance and an opportunity for every student of mine to enjoy their learning. These ambitions are valuable, but goals describe where we want to go. Habits determine whether we'll arrive there. For students, a useful habit might be reviewing a lesson for 20 minutes, practicing a few questions every evening before uh, looking what is trending in social media, or asking for help when something becomes unclear. For a teacher, what does this mean? It might imply learning something important about one student each week, reflecting briefly after a lesson, or improving one resource at a time. One small action may not produce a dramatic result, but repeated actions may do it. Let me give you a story about the second learner I tutored in Benster. He was a child of one of my favorite vegetable vendors at university. There is this market, we used to call it KM. If you go to Kenyatta University in Nairobi and ask for KM, you'll be gladly shown that market with beautiful stories. One evening, I went to buy vegetables for dinner as a fan of vegetables. And I had this vegetable vendor complaining about the new curriculum. And in her words, she said, "What's wrong with this new curriculum? They're giving kids work to do with parents at home, and they're not looking at the ability of we parents doing these questions with these kids." And she said she's really struggled with mathematics as a student, and she didn't see how best she gonna support this child with the mathematics assignment. And looking at herself, I heard her mention that she cannot afford a tuition teacher to support both of them in the journey. Later in the evening, as people were going back home, I visited the vendor's shop again, and I told her sometimes learning is not about how much you can offer, it's about the intention you have for your child. It's about how ready are you to make your kid learn. I've been in this area for a long time, but I don't think if you know I'm a teacher. As much as I'm training at university, but I'm a teacher of mathematics and physics. Okay, you know I'm a fan of vegetables, and for the last 2 years I've been in this, staying in this area, I've been buying vegetables from you. So I just want you to offer one thing. Whenever I have a session with your child, just offer me vegetables for dinner that day. She was very happy. I was going to support the child, but what she could offer is what she could afford. And it could cover my need, but my joy was not about the amount I'm going to receive. It was more about making the dream of this mother achieved in her kid. Although I was in that area for 1 year, I made sure every moment and every interaction I had with the kid, it transformed him. Not just to be an ideal mathematics learner that I want, that problem solver, but also to have an understanding of the dynamics of the world around him. So, think about the year ahead, not only about your biggest goal, but about your smallest useful actions, like the one I took in the life of this child. And think about this question: what can you continue doing even when you're tired, busy, or disappointed? Look at the life of this mom. She knew she couldn't, but through speaking it out, somebody was able to identify the need and brought growth in the life of this young man at a young age with small actions, but in a meaningful way. This takes me to my next lesson. It's about mistakes. And I do say mistakes should be evidence of thinking, not evidence of failure. Whenever I talk about mistakes, I remember one of my good friends and an educator. His name is Samuel Nando. When we were starting the journey as educators, I remember someone referring to his ideal learner as that learner who learns from mistakes. And being a lover of music, Samuel illustrated using a microphone. And at one point, the learner was not able to hold the microphone well while singing. But with time, the learner was able to position the microphone. And until he met the expectation and he was able to sing the song. Let's come to mathematics. Mathematics classroom can make students feel exposed. A student may understand part of an idea, but remain silent because they fear giving the wrong answer. Another may compare their speed with a classmate and conclude, I'm simply not good at mathematics. Through teaching mathematics for many years in physics, I've learned that struggle does not mean lack of ability. Sometimes a learner just needs more time. They need a different explanation. The real barrier is not mathematics, it can be confidence. The student has become afraid of being wrong because they're teenagers and what their peers are going to say about them is going to affect them. And they may be silent because they fear being judged. So, we teachers, we need to create a classroom where mistakes are treated as information. A wrong answer can reveal a misconception. A failed method can open a useful discussion. An unfinished attempt often tells us more than an empty page. Students have a responsibility also. You cannot wait until you feel completely confident before participating. Confidence often develops after you begin, not before. After you give it a try, not when you think you want to try. Ask that question, attempt the problem, and share the unfinished idea. I have a very nice student in one of my classes currently. I'll not mention his name, but this student had missed a number of lessons, and I was covering functions at that time. And functions was not the best for this student, and I discovered this when he came back for classes. And that day, I was standing at the door. As my usual custom, I welcome my students in class and try to make that beginning matter to the life of this child. So this student comes in and tells me, "Oh, hi, Benjamin. Hope you had a great weekend. I missed you so much." And he says, "But hope we're doing statistics. I hope we're not doing functions anymore." Then I step back. And then I realized that functions were really demotivating for this student. And maybe they stressed him off. But I told him, you want to Study statistics? He said, yes. And I told him, okay. We studied statistics last week. He was very happy. He came to that class very motivated. During my start activity, as usual, I projected a mathematical question on the board, and it was a very long question. It was an extended question requiring multiple steps and divided into different sections, let's say A, B, C, D. So this student volunteered to do the question even if he was not in the class and he had not learned any basic of statistics at that level. But he told me and he told the class that, sir, I want to attempt that question because we did this in the previous curriculum, in the previous level of study. And I told him, okay, come shine. It's your time to shine. And he went and attempted the first two questions well, using different approaches from the one we were using last time, using the methods he learned in the previous curriculum more than a year ago, and the outcome was right. The approach was different, but it led us to the goal. Coming to the third question, and I was teaching a course, or that is in IB application and interpretation, where learners need to use the mathematics to have understanding of the world around them. So it was a question of more that will involve more of interpretation, and that was going to be it was going to form the foundation of the basis of our class. And it was linking from the previous class. So this student struggled with this question and he said, sir, I can't do this. Class, I can't do this. And I told him, think deeply. I believe you can have a suggestion. You can have an idea. Then he brought an idea that resulted to world-class discussion. Although it was not accurate, it was not correct, but it gave a foundation of what we were going to learn that class. And students were able to discuss, and through that, were able to introduce meaningfully the aspect we were learning that day. So sometimes that learner is just waiting for think deeply. You can do this. And this takes me to my third lesson. I'm working on designing a small course on differentiation using artificial intelligence, and my focus is about simplifying access, not thinking. So, as the new year begins, and from my past learning about education through interaction with students and teachers, I have learned that it's important to simplify access, but not the thinking. There was a time when I thought supporting struggling learners uh, meant making their work easier. But experience has given me a chance to develop a principle whereby we make the access easier, attainable, but we don't do away with the complexity of the vocabulary of the commanding verbs that the curriculum expects the students to learn. The thinking is not simplified. The route to it is made easier. Students working towards the same learning goal, for example, may not all need the same route. One may need a diagram, another may need unfamiliar vocabulary explained, another may need the task divided into smaller stages, and someone else may be ready for an open ended extension. The support changes, but meaningful thinking remains. I want to give you a scenario in my class. I have this beautiful soul. This student comes to me and tells me, Benjamin, I do love group work. but sometimes they make me feel embarrassed because the group members are engaging, they are being involved in the learning, they are contributing everything, but I'm saying nothing. I want to learn, but this is demotivating me. I look forward for the group works, but sometimes I leave empty. And then it clicks to me and tells me, Benjamin, you're not going to be doing group works frequently, but you're not scrapping off group works. I talk to this learner and they tell him and they reflect with the student about the role of group works, and I appreciate the fact the student is able to see that. And I think with the student, and I decide that I gotta have homogeneous and heterogeneous groups in a way that learners will be able to work also with peers of the same ability. But in those groups, I should be considerate because I have in my school, I have learners from different nations, different curriculum, different language, different expectations. So the challenges are different. Remember, this is just a starting point. These people are coming from different schools, homes, languages, curriculum, and the life experiences. We need to be fair as educators. Fairness does not mean pretending those differences do not exist. It means giving every learner a genuine opportunity to participate, think, and progress. I'm talking about fairness because moving forward, when I was planning my lesson, I had activities where learners could work independently to give such a student who had reached out to me a chance to work on their level ability. And I could pull my chair and go where this learner was, and we could have a conversation and support. Because with the time I discovered the reason why the student was not participating in the groups and the student was being embarrassed, it was not about ability, it was about language barrier. But with time when that is being addressed, and I'm meeting this student where he or she is, the confidence comes and they get a chance to express themselves in their own way and participate because it's not about being correct always, but sometimes you can share an idea that can result to the accurate answer, or learners should be able to realize that I can say something and my friend next to me is not having that idea. When I say this idea, it clicks to the learner and they're able to think through it with me. And we make, at the end of the day, we get to the right answer. I'm talking about support. Support is not the same as being incapable. It's okay to reach out to that teacher. It's okay to reach out to that peer of yours because seeking for help does not mean inability. A diagram, a scaffolded task, an extra example, or an additional time is not a label, it's a route into the learning. It's okay to ask, and it's okay to create different paths. You're not making this learner being judged, but you're making them feel and appreciate every activity that is done in class in a way that it's simplifying their access to learning. Don't do the thinking for the learners. Allow them to learn how to think for themselves. This takes me to my fourth lesson. Artificial intelligence is here to stay with us as an advocate of AI in education and working with different educators, such as my mentors like Vivek on artificial intelligence. I feel something about the new here. And at the beginning, I've heard people say artificial intelligence explains concepts, generates questions, suggests lesson activities, it provides feedback, and it produces polished responses within seconds. This makes exciting possibilities, but also serious temptations since allowing technology to do the thinking that education is supposed to develop brings a gap. And this takes me to my guiding principle, which is AI should amplify thinking, not replace it. If a student uses AI to generate practice questions, receive a hint, compare two methods, or improve an explanation they have already attempted, the technology may amplify the learning. But if a student copies a complete response that they cannot explain, then AI has not supported learning, it has replaced it. Before you use AI, ask, what am I trying to learn? While using it, ask, am I still making decisions? Afterwards, ask, can I explain, verify, and defend what I now have? So every step is reflective. Every step you're evaluating what you've just done with the tool. The same principle applies to teachers. We are the ambassadors. If we use it wrongly, students are gonna use it wrongly. AI can help us design differentiated resources and reduce time to spend on routine tasks. However, it cannot take the responsibility of knowing our students, of knowing their cultures, of knowing their abilities. It cannot replace our professional judgment, relationships, or an understanding of context. You need to create that rapport with that learner. The most important question should not simply be, did you use AI? It should be, what happened to your thinking when you used it? I want to share a very nice story about one of my students. I love my students. So these students, because they are diploma students and we allow them to have laptops and gadgets in class sometimes, I'm working in the class and I discover this student has just uploaded the notes I shared on the folder on AI. And I smile and I stare at the conversations she's having with Gemini AI, and I see her ask AI, you are a student preparing for year one exams. Look at the notes my teacher shared and break down how I should do my revision so that in a week's time, I'll have covered everything. Interesting. The student thinking is being amplified, is not being replaced. Is asking AI to just support in creating a plan for the revision. Let's leave it there for now. Let's go to the fifth lesson. Even with good habits, supportive classroom, and responsible technology, those difficult moments may come. A student may fail behind, a teacher may deliver a lesson that does not work, someone may receive a result that makes them question their ability. In such moments, silence makes the problem heavier. A misunderstanding discussed today may take 5 minutes to address. Hidden for 5 weeks, it can become a wall between the learner and everything that follows. Why am I talking about silence? I have one of the best classes in the world, and sometimes these students stay silent about something, and then you're not able to judge if it's true or not because a week to the test, they come to me and tell me, "Oh, Benjamin, can we get an additional week to revise for the test?" And I look deep into their eyes and I tell them, if I'm going to add you 1 week to revise for this test, that means we missed consistency somewhere. And in everything, it's about being consistent and ensuring continuity. Communication should be key, and we should have a good connection to be able to speak throughout the way because education is a community. We are a community as a class. And therefore, I'm sorry, I'm not going to postpone this test because what have we been doing the last 2 months? That means learning has just been essential for this 1 week, but not for the 2 months. I want you to come and show me what you've been able to learn, to be able to navigate, to be able to explore the last 2 months. That is what matters. And in future, if you have a challenge, don't be silent about it. Bring it out. Let's have a conversation and let's learn through questions, feedback, and the relationships that we have. Asking for help does not mean giving away responsibility. It means taking responsibility early enough for support to make a difference. Sometimes we should not ask who can help me, we should ask who might need help from me. Strong school communities are built when people pay attention to one another. And this will go to life. If I take you back to the story of me with the venter, vegetable venter, it's because we had a community. I was buying from her vegetables for a long time. And we had created a community in a way that sometimes I could not wait for her to help me or to go buy vegetables in alone. But at this time, I heard her say something and I discovered that she needed my help. So sometimes sit down and ask yourself, who might need help from me? Strong communities are built when people pay attention to one another. One time, my student had a poem and she defined me as an architect of learning. And when you look at the word architect of learning, it goes beyond just having the best structure of a mathematics class. And it approaches the environment that has been created whereby learners can be able to support each other. They can be able to learn more about each other and appreciate the relationships that they have in that class because how sustainable they are is what the world today wants. Looking back when I was teaching at Aga Khan Academy, more than a year ago, I remember this student who sometimes was silent, but I paid attention to the student. Sometimes I could pull a chair, go sit with the student, and I realized that approaching the student made me understand what he needed. It helped me realize what the perspective of the student about mathematics was. And I was able to appreciate something different. That as much as this learner may not engage in class that frequently, but it's because of a belief the student had about his inability in mathematics was genetic. Because he was saying the grandfather was not good in math, the father was not good in math, and therefore he does not see the need. But having a conversation with him, and sometimes because he was more into gaming and environmental aspects, I could give assignments and ask them to prepare presentations about an aspect and link it to mathematics. And I could ask students to come present, and these students could gladly come to the board and present, and he was happy. And that is how his attitude towards mathematics started changing. So, teachers, let's meet those students where they are. Those students, they just need a small habit. Let them choose a habit that they're going to practice consistently. Help them choose one relationship that they will intentionally strengthen. Let them choose one fear that will not allow them be prevented from asking a question or attempting something difficult, and help them choose one responsible way to use technology to amplify their thinking. The success of a school here will not be determined by how motivated you feel during the opening week. It will be built through the choices you make after the excitement has disappeared. The decision to practice again, ask for help, reflect on a mistake, support another person, and keep learning. There will be days when you do not follow your plan. There will be lessons that do not go as expected. There will be results that disappoint you. Those moments do not have to define you here. What matters is what you do next. A successful school year is not created in one day. It's created slowly, deliberately. So let's begin with hope, but let's not depend on hope alone. Let's look at that one habit, make that ambition have an action, use that technology without judgment, and have the courage to ask, listen, and learn. And that is it.